For this project, I chose auto brewery syndrome. My patient is Thomas Tommy Harris. He is a male. He's 28 years old. He grew up in the South in Tyler, Alabama. He is a white Caucasian man. However, he does speak two languages, English and Spanish. His trade work is construction. He comes from a middle class income. He does travel for his job. He is currently in Detroit working on the Cambria Hotel. Under his medical records, there were no religious beliefs listed. As his personal life goes, he mentioned he had a new wife, Madison Harris. They have no children. Some of his hobbies include fishing, cooking foods. When asked, some of the foods he included were pizza and pasta. He enjoys playing baseball, weightlifting, and wood carpentry as well. He did smoke from age 18 to 21 and mildly chewed tobacco, as well as he drinks for leisure. He does take vitamins. He has a strong belief that vitamins are important. He has no interest in utilizing energy practices. He's heard of manipulative and body practice, however, has never tried it. He is considered to an option. And he's also interested in mind-body intervention if it could help him. Harris was working on a site here in Detroit when his boss noticed his eyes were a little bit glossy. After being questioned, his boss sent him to the ER because he had figured Harris had come to work drunk. With this being a health hazard and safety hazard, he was sent to the ER for a blood panel to confirm the foreman's theory. Some of the symptoms that he had been experiencing the day he was sent to the ER was he was belching pretty consistently, which is kind of consistent with someone who's intoxicated. He complained of being kind of dizzy throughout the day, as well as being in a state of almost hungover. After the results came back from the blood alcohol concentration, there was a rise in alcohol, so the theory was correct. However, Harris repeatedly denied that he did not drink any alcohol and had not consumed alcohol while he was at work. They decided to run further tests where they diagnosed him with auto brewery syndrome. It is a rare and almost unusual diagnosis for someone to receive. What is auto brewery syndrome? Auto brewery syndrome, or gut fermentation, is a rare, unheard of condition. As one of the studies, Jesse, the author, continues to write, defines it as a condition where the patients become inebriated without use of alcohol. Alcohol is produced through an ethanol, and when the bacteria in the gut forms, it also creates an ethanol, where it makes the patient intoxicated without actually consuming any alcohol. They usually smell of alcohol, the patient. You can usually have it on their breath, or during some surgeries when it was found, patients would actually smell of alcohol while surgeons were working on their insides. It's believed that the fermentation process happens in the bowels. It is not tied to a specific group or gender. No one culture is more prone to getting it. In the 50s, it was found in Japan quite often, and they kind of related that back to the amount of carbs that people eat in noodles in Japan, because it has a big deal. What your diet can affect the way that you process food. The symptoms may not always be constant, and they may not be very out to the rest of the world. The only patient may feel that they are a little drowsy, a little bit dizzy, not feeling so well, and as they said, as hungover. But it may not be noticeable to others. The way you can determine this is by culturing stool samples and checking their blood alcohol level through a blood test or a breathalyzer. One treatment option is, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, was a diet change. ABS is what autobreuer syndrome is going to be referred to throughout the rest of the presentation. If you change the diet, the amount of carbs they eat, it can be associated that the keto diet is a better diet for someone with ABS to fall back to start when they start to treatment. It's a low carb foods, low sugar, mostly drinking water. In a study done by Cornell, Condoria, and Miller, the patients who had low carb foods did show improvement from symptoms from the start of the case study. For Mr. Harris, this would be a great first option considering he did list his two favorite foods to be pizza and pasta, two very high carb foods. This would be a great option, as well as I'd like to pair it with the treatment of fluconazole. Fluconazole is a prescribed drug. It's a antifungal drug, so it's to help relieve fungal infections that the body may come in contact with. During the case study in 2019, they utilized fluconazole and to help treat ABS as well as gut fermentation. And it was taken with a normal diet, so there was no change, as well as a normal schedule. And it's shown to have recovery time with no downtime needed to help with the symptoms. I think this would be a great first option for Mr. Harris to take, as well as paired with a diet to help lighten up on some of the carbs that he may be eating as well. The second option, or third option, the third treatment that Mr. Harris could receive is micafungin. It is also another prescribed medication. However, it is similar to fluconazole. It's to help build up on the Candida bacteria. It is to decrease the hangover symptoms. It's more triggered to go right after that. However, it did take 8 weeks for the treatment to show progress, which is a long time, and we know that Mr. Harris would like to continue his regular life without minimal change. I think this would be a good option if the fluconazole does not work or is not showing to progress as well as we'd like. This progress has been shown to be successful, but again, it does take several times and may include hospitalization time, which is something we would like to refrain from for Mr. Harris. The final treatment option that Mr. Harris could take is called a fecal microbiota transplantation. This is an extremely rarely used process and something I really don't even want to push in this direction. It's only been used a handful of times, and it's been used to treat other things outside of just ABS. It is a transplant of fecal matter. Requires a healthy donor that is similar in blood type and is hits all the qualifications. It could be very difficult to find someone that may not be in Mr. Harris's family. They did use this in a case in 2016. The patient was not responding to any drugs. They had used several, and it just was not helping. This was like their last resort. That particular patient was off for almost 3 years due to constantly being in a state of intoxication. We know that this type of disease is episodical and we don't know when it'll hit. So this would be my absolute last option. However, it is a new therapy that is still being tested and still being worked on, as this journal was just published just last year after this case took place in 2016. These are some of the references that I was able to find to help best suggest what Mr. Harris could possibly get from each treatment as well as what he's looking towards for his diagnosis. Thank you.